What's up, everybody? Jensen Cummings here. Thank you for tuning in. Great show today. Mondays, as you will see, we're going to be really focused on best served young, youth education, school gardens, lunch programs. And today we're talking pillars of excellence with LaKiesha P. Dunn, who is program manager at the Trotter Project in Chicago, Illinois. LaKiesha, thank you for being on.
Oh, thank you for having me. This is a great opportunity to talk about what we're doing at the Trotter Project. So thank you.
Yes, if the Trotter Project sounds familiar, Charlie Trotter, the name probably sounds familiar to a lot of our audience being restaurant professionals. And then we also got to talk to Derek Hull, Dynamo for sure. Couldn't get a word in, but I didn't need to. He told the story so well. He highlighted the work that you specifically are doing, and we're talking a little bit about the Montessori school in Englewood there that you're really focused on. Tell everybody who kind of doesn't know the Trotter Project. What is the work, the mission of the Trotter Project?
Well, the Trotter Project is a non-for-profit that was started of Charlie Trotter, and it was started with some alum from his restaurant and his family.
So I thought that you wanted to start your own school, and I want to have you start from there. So you wanted to start your own school. Makes a lot of sense to me for you to be able to work with an organization like the Trotter Project and the Montessori School in Englewood. So kind of take us from there. You want to start a school. Why was this then the right opportunity for you?
Well, because it would give me that experience and the opportunity to learn what I needed and build my confidence to go into something so large as starting your own school. I have over a decade of experience working in education and working with the youth in different programs. However, I never had that opportunity. So the Trotter Project pretty much gave me that opportunity, and it's helped build my confidence. It's helped me learn a lot of things that goes on behind the scenes that you're not so aware about when you're doing the work, creating and developing, and have to sit in on meetings. When you're just working with students all the time, you don't get to hear what happens in the meetings, the big meetings. But now I do.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense to me. You're kind of just doing the work versus now you're influencing the work that's actually happening. When did you start with the Trotter Project?
I started technically with the Trotter Project January of 2017. So it's been about 3 years with the Trotter Project.
Okay, take us through. I want to get very specific about the school, the Montessori school in Englewood, because that's where a lot of the work is happening, very specific to, school gardens, lunch programs, youth education, what's important to us. So when did that project start for you? And kind of just take us through some of the highlights of that journey a little bit.
Well, we were introduced to Thomas Hill, who is the president of the board at Montessori School of Englewood. And we had a meeting with him, and he explained some of the challenges they were having at the school. So at the time, they were having there weren't enough hot lunches to give every student at the school, which is ridiculous when you think about it. Like, what? Rita Nolan, who was the principal at the time, and a couple of 8th graders who wrote to their principal about how displeased they were with their lunches, and that they needed better food. And I mean, we were totally impressed by the students' ability to speak up for themselves, and for the on the school side, for them to open the doors that comfortable coming to them about their concerns. So we noticed that
I want to cover on that for a second, LaKiesha. I think that's very interesting. You just mentioned the work that you were doing. You were too close to the work, so you couldn't see the forest of the trees. Now you get to feel a little more perspective of the big picture. Students too often are in the same scenario. They're just in it. They can't see what's affecting them because it is massively affecting them. Talk about those students, and maybe generally talking to students, like, you have a voice. You need to use your voice because those 8th graders clearly did, and it made a massive impact. Let's talk about some specifics. Derek mentioned some of the funding and stuff like that. Talk about what it actually takes to accomplish that when you're building out a garden, when you're working in that community. How are you guys getting access to money? How are you deploying that? Like, give us a little bit of that, because I know there's a lot of people out there that are in similar situations to the Montessori school that have a need and a desire and have the appetite to make something happen. They just don't know how to go about it. Can you give us a little kind of like peek behind the veil?
Yes. Well, we were lucky to have a board member who works with the Museum of Science and Industry, and the University of Illinois Extension Program has a master gardeners there that work. After the first week or so, Ron, who is the extension educator, he brought in some cockroaches for the students to play with or to hold. And then there's other curriculum that that goes on at the with the master gardeners as well, or the opportunity to introduce with the University of Illinois Extension Program. But the master gardeners, Jackie, Rosemary, and Ella, they are beyond amazing. They are, and Ron as well. They work so well with the students, and it has been an amazing project to see work. As far as anyone else who wants to start a garden program, I would suggest to look up. What I did was pretty also, in addition to the University of Illinois Extension Program, is research gardening programs in a city. There are a few, well, more than I thought that they were. So you have like Grow Greater Englewood and the Grow Collective, Urban Grow Collective, that has urban farming, and there's also gardening programs that they have available for whether they can give you tips on how to start a garden, or they'll come out and do some consulting. And there's also gardening programs that have training for people who want to become master gardeners or who want to well. So as far as funding, well, we have, programming funds that we, budget and plan for. So the garden is something that we always wanted to do since this conception of the Pillars of Excellence program. We just didn't know how we will be able to get it done. So it really just takes, applying for grants, applying for funding, because there are grant programs out there that can help fund the garden. And then you also have to just think about with the garden and having a community garden that has to be like water access or access to water, good sunlight. And then there are times where you have to deal with some theft at the garden or in the, to be careful about out, or you may have some people come, and we had a few tomato plants stolen in the beginning. So those are a few things that you deal with starting a garden, but don't let that discourage you, because at the end of the day, the goal is to feed the community. And when I hear stories about family over the weekend in the garden having lunch, or, there are people coming to the garden and picking, to eat for the day, like that makes it all worthwhile at the end of the day. And that's the goal, to have something that the community can go to for food. And it's something that the community itself is sustaining. It's not just the Trotter Project. It's like, hey, here's this garden. The school and the community will sustain the garden and keep it going for others. So
keep going. Whatever you feel like is the next thing to talk about in the journey, I want to hear that, because I'm way behind.
Well, I was just talking about the community garden and how our goal is to make sure that it's sustained by the school and the community, because the Trotter Project doesn't want to be that organization that comes in and do these little one-hit wonder projects or act like we are savior or anything like that. We want to provide opportunities for continue to build on their own. And so we can move on to other projects, because we have a goal to expand and to help as many people as possible. So if we can introduce projects where we can help sustain, then it helps us, be able to help more communities as well.
Let's talk about the people working in the school themselves, be it students, teachers, administrators. Talk about the work that they're doing.
Well, the Montessori School of Englewood is a unique school. I grew up in the CPS system, and I'm used to going into CPS schools all the time. But visiting the Montessori School of Englewood is a treat. So you meet some amazing littles and young people. I call the littles. And then the staff there is amazing to understand the community that you serve and that they serve, and they definitely cater to the community. And that's something that I admire about them. They're always thinking about the people in the community, and they do what they can to help everyone. So Maggie has been a great source at the school. She is beyond phenomenal. Maggie does so many things. She wears so many hats, and but she makes my job a little bit. So I tip my hat off to Maggie and always thank her for working with us and to make sure that we're able to, provide resources to the school, and we're doing right by the school. So Rita Nolan is also a great resource at Montessori School of Englewood. When we started there, she was the principal. She is and she has been great working with us as well. I've also met the new principal, Dr. Wells, who is amazing. So that's what I enjoy. I enjoy working with people who are committed to the students and know that the students are first. Dealing with education, sometimes you have to deal with some political things, and people make things about them. And I admire and I'm attracted, and I enjoy working with people who know what the goal is and what the mission is, and they stick to that and don't take things too personally, because things can get out of hand all the time. But once you remember that the reason you're there is to stay committed to the youth, and you're there for the community, then things should clear up. So that's what I try to focus on, and the Montessori School of Englewood does a great job at focusing on the students and their needs, and the parents as well. So
yeah, talk about chefs. I mean, the organization, talk about chefs. The organization started around chefs.
Yes.
The work that chefs are doing to support the Trotter Project, any work that they're doing specifically in any of the school programs. Just take a couple minutes. Let's talk about chefs, and the impact they can have.
Well, since we've started, we've had some support from alumni chefs that work with either Homaro Cantu, because Homaro Cantu was one of the founding chefs of the Trotter Project, one of the founding fathers of the Trotter Project. And then there's just been many people who have worked with either Charlie Trotter or Homaro Cantu, or just know of Charlie Trotter and just respects his legacy, and they respect what we're doing, so they want to work with us. It is very important to have their support and to hear from them and have their involvement. We have students who are interested in culinary arts and hospitality, but their vision of the culinary world sometimes is based off what they see on TV. Everyone can't be a Gordon Ramsay. Everyone is not a top chef or Iron Chef, so it's great when you have chefs that can come in and mentor the students and give them an idea of what to expect in the real world, but also just to work with them and have fun in the kitchen. I mean, we've had different events where chefs either mentored the students during a competition. We had a rising chef competition where we had chefs come in and mentor different teams, which was awesome.
I appreciate that. It's a call out to all of my fellow chefs out there. Get involved. Get them when they're young. Inspire when they're young. Not only will it feed the community, it'll feed their minds and their spirits. And you have future chefs on your hands there. If we don't feed them now, they're going to be fed with bad food and have a lower expectation of food. And all of a sudden, the foods that we're creating, there's not going to be a demand for it because the kids aren't excited about it. You give them a vegetable, you can change their life. I truly, truly believe that. So, LaKiesha, I really appreciate you being on. I appreciate the work that you and Derek and your whole team is doing, everybody from Montessori. It's really inspiring, and we're going to continue to share these stories. And thank you for bearing with us through some technology issues today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.